We are here at Copenhagenize Design Company and I'm talking with the CEO, Michael Colville Anderson. He's an urban design expert. Michael, you could talk probably the entire afternoon about how you can make a city more bike friendly, but can I pick your brain first on why would cities want this and how can you get the people in charge to choose this path?
We know how to do it, you're right. We're doing it around the world. The interest for this is growing day by day. More and more cities are waking up and realizing that they need solutions to congestion. They need tools to improve the public health. There's many reasons that we're putting the bicycles back into our cities. We have lived together in cities for about 7,000 years and things went well. Perhaps we could have died of tuberculosis 500 years ago or various other diseases, but generally the urban fabric was very, very interwoven and from an anthropological point of view. With the invention of the automobile in the last 100 years, after 7,000 years, everything really has gone wrong. So we know that we have a lot of urban challenges and most of it really is focused on the automobile in our cities. The pollution that it causes, the death and injury that it causes, not just taking up an enormous amount of urban space. Really, cities around the world are focusing on the bicycle once again. Every city in the world used to be bicycle friendly for decades. Then along came car-centric urban planning in the 1950s, and really even in Copenhagen, even in the Netherlands, everywhere we're still living with that nightmare. But why we're doing it now is really for traffic. Reducing congestion, getting people to move from cars over onto bikes or to public transport. And really what we see a focus on around the world is the public health. We have, so many lifestyle illnesses, epidemic proportions, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and we know, and we've documented it very, very well in Denmark and also the Netherlands, that the bicycle is an amazing medicine, as it were. It makes the city nicer, it slows down the city, it makes it a more enjoyable urban space, but it also improves people's health in so many different ways. So really, the cities that we work with around the world, we see, we have problems with congestion and we have an ailing population. So these are the two primary factors. If I listen to my radar about why cities want this. What we see also is a growing awareness that campaigns for riding a bike, get out and ride a bike. It's good for you, it's good for the planet, save a polar bear on your damn bicycle today. They are completely irrelevant. And this is a hangover that we have from environmentalism and the whole environmentalist movement from the 1970s up until today. The messaging that they've been using is really kind of looking down my nose at you and pointing my finger and saying, you're not doing enough, man. The planet's dying and you're not recycling. It's your fault. That is just a failed marketing message. It's the greatest marketing flop in the history of Homo sapiens, really, this environmentalist tone. There's nothing wrong with environmentalism, it's just the way that they're speaking to us. And a lot of bicycle advocacy, a lot of campaigns that we see around the world are borrowing freely from this failed technique. Ride a bike, it's green, it's healthy. People will do things if they are given the opportunity to do so. We can't push them anymore. We can't, wag our fingers. We can't smile at them and punch them on the shoulder and say, get out there and do it. They won't do anything, Homo sapiens generally, unless we make it easy and convenient to do so.
That's very clear. And Copenhagen has spearheaded this method of making a city bike friendly and in that way converting people to using bikes. Why Copenhagen? Why did this start in Copenhagen and why not in other cities? Do you have a vision about that?
So every city in the world used to be bicycle friendly. The bicycle was a primary transport form in every city in Europe and in most cities in the world up until the 1950s, really. Bicycling peaked as transport in the late 1940s because what came along then was this car-centric focus on giving the automobile all the space on our city streets. And things changed drastically. In 1949, we had 55% of the population on bikes here in Copenhagen. By 1969, we went down to 9%. This story is parallel with the Netherlands and Dutch cities everywhere, but we did exactly the same thing in exactly the same way, independently of each other. So by 1969, cyclists were dying all over the nation. Infrastructure that had been put into place had been taken out. because the automobile needed more space. Through the 1970s, we started to realize that we had really made a stupid mistake, that by taking away the infrastructure. About 50% of all the infrastructure was taken out in Copenhagen through the 1950s and 1960s. Similar in the Netherlands as well. And what happened in the 1970s was this awareness of the bicycle as transport. We had the 2 oil crises in Denmark, which really hit Denmark hard. So there was a need for transportation that did not involve buying fossil fuels because nobody could afford it here. In the 1980s, things started to change. I don't know if they were looking through the photos in the history books going, we used to do that here in the city center, let's do that again. And infrastructure started being put back into place. And from 9% in 1969, we are now at 56% of the population of the city of Copenhagen, people who live in this city, ride a bicycle every day, and only 10% will use a car. So it really was this journey. The advantage for Danish and Dutch cities was that we had not completely forgotten the bicycle as transport in 1969. We still had 9%. There are cities around the world that would beg for 9%. It's really a good number. But in other cities in the world, the bicycle had been pushed completely out. It had been forgotten and relegated to the history books as transport. So it's more difficult now for cities to put the bicycles back as transport than it was for Copenhagen and Amsterdam to do it in the 1970s. But we are seeing this awareness grow, and it's amazing to see some cities in the world that are just going for it and doing what Copenhagen did in over 20 years in a matter of 5 or 10. Seville in Spain, they went from 0.2% of the population on bikes to 7% in only 4 years. And Buenos Aires, Paris, Barcelona, Dublin, all of these cities are really realizing that it can be done quicker and that it's about infrastructure.
And if you think about these different cities of the world, you've been very clear on how not to approach this issue, not to start campaigns for people to ride bikes, but to create the infrastructure. There are of course many things they can do, but if you take an average city of the world, and what would be one measure that you could take, what is your sort of golden approach, the first thing that you should do?
I often say that there is no chicken and egg, there is only infrastructure. Really, it all boils down to that. You can't tell somebody to ride a bike unless they have somewhere where they're safe and where they feel safe. Infrastructure is the absolute key. So designing a bicycle infrastructure network based on best practice designs, which are 100 years old. This is nothing new that we whip out of our back pockets here in this office. It's generations of urban planners and bicycle planners who have determined really the best design solutions. And for me, the easiest thing to do for a city is just to copy paste, Control C, Control V, and take what we've done in Copenhagen and put it into really any city in the world.
That seems like a very logical thing to do, but still, you see many cities adopting their own approach. For example, in these bike rental systems that you now have, each city has its own bike rental system with different passes and different. Why do cities choose their own path instead of copying best practices that have proven themselves?
Now, you said I could only choose one thing. So if I would have chosen 3 things. For me, the holy trinity for really making a bicycle-friendly city is the infrastructure, is a bike share system that we see in 1,000 cities around the world, and traffic calming, slowing down automobiles. Okay. Because we know there's science to back up all of this. We know that there's 150 cities in Europe now that have 30 kilometers per hour as their baseline speed, 20 miles per hour. There's a campaign in the UK called 20's Plenty. You don't need to go faster in a city because you will save lives if you're going that slow. So really, those are the 3 most important things. Copying bike share systems is a little bit easier because there's about 4 or 5 different models to choose from, and really in the past 10 years, there's only been a handful of bike share systems that have failed. It's really, there's over 1,000 cities now that have them, and most of them are a success.
Working.
Yeah. There's a lot of factors involved in how do you make that work. Of course, having stations at intelligently placed locations with a tight density and whatnot. But again, a lot of cities are putting in a bike share system because it's cool. That's what all the cool kids are doing. But it means nothing, again, unless you have infrastructure. You need a safe place to ride that bike, because at the end of the day, every Homo sapien will make an individual choice. I'm not going to ride a bike because I don't feel safe, and I heard about a friend who fell off their bike, so I'm not going to do that. But once you have the infrastructure there, people start to feel safe. It's something that the city of Copenhagen measures. All cities measure, injury and injury statistics, but here they measure basically the sense of safety. Do you feel safe riding a bicycle in the city? Is something they measure every 2 years since 1996, as well as all the rest. And that number is very, very high here. People generally feel safe on a bicycle, and that's what, most of the cities in the world that we work with, the primary cyclists are men between 25 and 40, maybe 20 and 40. But what you see here in Copenhagen is that 55% of the population riding bikes are women. And that really is one of the indicators that we use around the world, the gender split in a city. So families with their kids going to school, grandparents and whatnot, the elderly, everybody is still riding a bicycle here because they feel safe.
We talked a lot about what government or city planners can do. There are many students watching this video in our MOOC, and is there something that they can do in their neighborhood to make it more bike friendly? Is there something that civilians can also do?
I think what we see around the world is becoming more and more top down. The awareness of politicians around the world about the importance of infrastructure and investing in it is growing, but really the groundswell has always been bottom up. So if somebody just gets on a bike, is seen on a bicycle in their city, if politicians ride a bike to work every day, that's really the greatest thing that you can do in a city. But having citizens just riding a bike, if they don't want to ride through traffic, because that's the stupidest thing really, to have to ride with automobiles, but using a bike as much as possible, considering the bicycle as a transport form. If you have to take, you have a super long drive to work or school, and then you come home in the evening, why not ride your bike down to the cafe or to the supermarket, trying to integrate the bicycle into your daily lives. Because every time we see one more bicycle on the streets, there's somebody saying, there's another bicycle, And the awareness of cycling, that the bicycle is back as transport, that's incredibly important. So the more people riding bicycles, the better, and they can choose themselves, how often and how they want to do that. But I really think it's important.
Copenhagen is now one of the world's most bike-friendly cities. Many cities around the world are following that example. What's your vision for the future of Copenhagen? Is Copenhagen is it finished, or what do you envision for the coming 10 years?
Oh, it's not finished. I mean, it's really what I'm starting to realize. Is that there's still a lot of work to be done. I really think if you take all the cities in the world and you put them into a football league system, Copenhagen is going to be one of the top four. Somebody's going to win every year, like in the British Premier League, and Copenhagen really is one of the best cities in the world in so many ways. But yeah. It's a work in progress still. If you look about cycling, we've completed our network. You can cycle anywhere you want in the city safely and efficiently and quicker than any other form of transport. So that job is done. But we are resting on our laurels, because Copenhagen has been so hot and so cool for so many years in the international perception that politicians here are going, well, what? They all love us, Yeah, but we have to do some more. What? I keep telling you every single day, you're gorgeous. You look amazing in that suit and those shoes. I love. You're just a good-looking guy. You're gonna start thinking, okay, I'm just gonna wear this every day. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to. That's the problem that we have now. Is we're just super hot and sexy, and we don't realize that we have to maintain that.
And what are problems that you still want to solve?
The main problem regarding transport is that we have had a very, very Nordic compromise. The city of Copenhagen has a policy that cycling and public transport must always be above 30% of the modal share for transport, and cars must never be more than 30%. But we have urbanization here. Car traffic is expected to rise by 20%, and we don't know where we're going to put them. Not enough is being done to provide even wider cycle tracks. We have some amazing infrastructure, the best in the world here. But if we're going to accommodate, even more people on bikes, we need to start taking away streets and just making, every second main boulevard to the city center a bicycle and bus street, and just pushing the cars completely out. That's the only way we're going to do it. We're building a new metro ring, which is going to accommodate a lot of transport in Copenhagen, but still, we're still reluctant to finally push out all of these cars out of our city. It's ironic that if you're cycling around Copenhagen, about this time of day, midday, or in the morning rush hour, there's a lot of cars. People are amazed that there's so many cars here. At 7 o'clock tonight, on any of the main boulevards, we can play Frisbee because there's nobody there. There are all these people who live in the suburbs. They don't even pay taxes in the city of Copenhagen, but we are providing with infrastructure so they can drive through. It's a total disconnect. It's really bad business. So that's the challenge, is to create. There's been plans of a congestion ring around Copenhagen, like they have in Stockholm, Oslo, London, and other cities. But there's a lack of political will. Copenhagen wants to be the first CO2 neutral city in the world by 2025. If you look at the documents, if you look at their broad vision, you realize that there is a lot of smoke and mirrors. The coal power plants that are burning coal now, they're just going to go over to burning wood. Because wood all of a sudden is a renewable resource, wood from Russia and Poland. And their offset for increasing car traffic is just building some wind turbines off the coast in the Baltic Sea. And they're actually trying to connect that as an offset. Or we'll just have wind power, and then it's okay if we have more cars in the city. It's really just a scam, and it's so depressing.
Thank you very much for sharing your vision and insights with us and with the students.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.